Welcome to my channel. It's Egwin here with Beyond Systems. Today, the next exercise in this movement month. So currently, for those of you who do not yet know, we are doing one exercise per day, something out of mobility, flexibility, strength, coordination. And I always weave in a couple of extra nuggets of what it teaches you for your consciousness, for clarity of mind, for grounding, maybe even for dealing with emotions, and so on and so on. If you're interested in the previous videos, then please just check them out on my channel. And if you want to stay up to date because you say, oh, wow, nice, okay, I want more information like that, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and also like and share the video. All right, now, without any further ado, the exercise for today is something really simple. I have talked about that in the past. I'm still decided to bring this up again, and it has to do with our hip joints. I'm gonna bring in some more additional information. You might want to use a block for this. I'm gonna show you both versions. It really depends on your mobility that is currently present in your hip joints and how well you can balance with your upper body. The position is simple. We're gonna sit on the ground or on the block. Like I said, I'm gonna show that a little later. The legs are pretty far apart, so the feet stand further apart than our hip width, and the knees are pulled up like this. I'm going to change direction in a second so you see it from all angles. What I try is my upper body should be relaxed yet upright, and this is exactly what I mean with the block. If in this position with the knees gentle bent, you will really have a hard time keeping the upper body upright, and you have to literally hold very tight with your front muscles. Then please use the block. Sit on the block, as it will obviously change the angle into your legs, and this will allow you to sit up tall in a more relaxed way if you do not yet have the mobility in your hip joints. Also note that some days you just simply don't have the mobility, and some other days you might, depending on whether or not you've just been sitting for 8 hours straight, or maybe you had a rough night and in the morning you just feel stiff, but yet you want to do something. In other words, our bodies aren't the same every single day, so don't expect the same of our bodies every single day. And really be compassionate with yourself when it comes to this exploration of, okay, where am I at today? Don't freak out because maybe today it's more difficult than it was yesterday, because there's another day to come, most likely. In other words, when we do those exercises, really do what's best at that specific day for the best possible results, and don't stick to, oh, I know normally I could do it, and that's why now I tense up more. All right, now to the exercise. I sit here, my feet are on the ground in front of me like this. The upper body, like I said, should be fairly upright and also relaxed. And what we do is we're gonna start with both knees down on the right side like this. From this position, I challenge you to lift just the left knee off the ground and try to open it as much as possible in your hip joint without yet lifting the right. As soon as you realize, okay, now it doesn't go any further down to the left, then you bring the right knee with it and then switch sides completely. And now let's do this whole thing to the other side. So, first thing, I lift the right leg and I try to open it up towards the side as much as possible before my left follows. So this really challenges both your balance, and normally we're used to balance through our feet. Now we have to balance on our sitting bones, slightly on the side of the pelvic ring, and also with the legs. What we do, we rotate the leg in a rotational axis that connects basically the foot with our hip up here. So it's this side opening and closing movement. The feet stay on the same spot on the ground. They just roll over. That's all. They do not swivel like this. The feet stay where they are right now on the ground. Make sure that when you sit in center, they are equally far left and right away from the pelvis, both forward and backward, and also left and right from a midline, so that you actually challenge yourself equally left and right. Now roll down, open the left knee out to the side as far as possible. When you realize, okay, it's not going to go any further, then bring the right side with you until the left is on the ground, and then drop the right down. Let's repeat this whole process one more time. I'm going to lift the right leg up. When I realize, okay, it's not going to go any further, you see there is a difference between the left and right side for me here as well. Then I roll over and I bring the other leg with me. Slight one-sidedness, where one side works better than the other, falls in the same category than what I've been talking about before. Sometimes it happens. We are human beings, we are living creatures. So basically like a tree, just mostly like slightly faster paced. Now, when we go back to this exercise, one thing that I will point your attention to now, and that's really important, is, well, why not do this exercise with more tension in the upper body? Like, if I have to, in this position, if I have to hold my upper body here because I don't have the mobility to bring it up in a relaxed way, why don't I try to do this with force and hold myself in front? Every time you really struggle in the body, every time you force your physical body to do something that is really difficult, where you have to tense up muscles in the body that are not directly related to the movement happening, this potentially creates problems and more stress than good in the body. And that's why we try to avoid it. There are also biomechanical reasons, because what we want is the body to be able to adapt throughout the whole system. The legs, the pelvic ring, the spine, the chest, most importantly, the breathing. If you go in such a position, and I see this a lot in mobility work, and I'm always like, why? Why are you forcing something? Don't get me wrong, there are certain mobility exercises out there where concrete, very precise muscular tension is required for the exercise to work. Certain FRC exercises, like these functional range conditioning exercises, for example, they really required for these progressive and regressive angular rotations. If someone of you knows this terminology, yes, for those exercises, muscular tension is required in order to get the effect locally in the joints that we want to work with. This exercise is different, and many mobility exercises actually are different. They are not designed to tense up the whole body, especially the second your whole face tenses up. You also tense up your palms and so on. You recruit more muscles in the body in areas that are currently not even in question for this specific movement. You limit your breathing, you increase the stress level in the body, you reduce the flow, the blood flow, lymphatic flow in the body, and you create more strain also mentally than is necessary. And in terms of coordination and proprioception, you reduce the effects of the exercise, because the more tension you create in the body, the less perception of what is going on in a fine motor sense, there is. So if you sit here and you tense up and you try to do this exercise and really struggle, that's besides the point of the exercise. That's why I strongly suggest, if that is the case for you, that it's difficult to sit upright in this position and you struggle with keeping your posture, I suggest use the block. Use the block because it changes the angle, it allows you to sit upright way more easily, and then you can still do those folding things. You can use a block, you can use a book, you can use maybe even a yoga mat rolled together so that you have more space for your butt to maneuver, because what's happening here is that the hip will turn. So in order not to have the feeling of falling off your block, you might want a bigger surface to sit on. That's absolutely fine. I just wouldn't suggest to take something as high as a chair. Take something that's 5 or maybe 10 centimeters, but not more than that. There is another reason for that, because if you use this and you're using this elevation, also be certain about one thing. There is a chance that you might not get both legs on the ground. And that's for stability reasons, and that's also for mobility reasons in the hips. Also, if you sit elevated, be especially careful with the rear leg. Don't try to press the knee down into the ground if it simply doesn't want to go all the way down. The reason why this again is important, in this exercise we are looking for the free range of motion in the hip joints. When I sit like this, I can easily drop one leg down and bring the other leg on top of it. However, if I sit elevated, the angle again of the hip joint into the leg changes, which you've seen just before, so I can't really get the knee all the way down to the ground anymore because it's beyond my capacity for internal rotation and my hips are fairly open. And that's normal. It's not important whether or not we reach quote-unquote full range of motion that's theoretically possible or that we see in another person. If this exercise looks like this, okay, I can't get my right leg any closer down to the ground, I can't get my left leg any closer down to the ground, then for now that's fine. Then we just work with what we got here, try to open and then switch the other leg in. And then do the opposite, open and switch the other leg in. That's absolutely fine. Same goes for me sitting on a block. If there is any discomfort in large ranges of motion, then we simply go, okay, let's drop the legs, open, close, open and bring with, open, close, open and bring with. So this exercise is not necessarily one that seeks to reach full range of motion no matter what. It's an exercise that is here to trigger certain muscle groups around your hip joints and to help you to coordinate your pelvic ring with regard to a weight shift and with regard to a position change of your legs, your lumbar spine, your upper body. So it's not even necessarily just a hip mobility exercise. That's also why it's so important not to tense up the upper body, because I want those fine motor adjustments where I try to keep my spine upright and long, and yet it is adaptable, because if I open my knee out towards the side, depending again on your hip mobility, your hip might roll a little bit forward and then it might roll a little bit backwards again. See, there is a lot of movement in the pelvic ring as well, and that is fine. That is what's supposed to happen in this exercise. Like I said, there are other exercises that are specifically designed to really go into full range of motion without so-called compensational movement. But this exercise actually uses the aspect of compensational movement to teach you something about how those parts, your lumbar spine, your center of gravity, your pelvic ring, and your legs interrelate with each other when you move your hips and your legs in a certain way. All right, have a wonderful time. Try this out. See you around tomorrow for the next exercise and stay up to date. Have a beautiful day. Bye, guys.